The Diddy Trial, let's discuss it and then have your incense ready to get it off you. Our next guest, Lionel from the Lionel Nation YouTube channel, says the government could blow this because they're just not making a good case. What we've seen so far is gross, but Lionel has made the case many times. It's not illegal to be gross. It's not illegal to be a pervert. It's not illegal to have,
Baby
sex
oil.
parties. So what is illegal about this? What's the case? Sure, there's a salacious interest here, but is the government failing to make this a trafficking case? Lionel, good to see you. Lay it on me.
Good to see you. That should be the title of your book. It's not illegal to be gross. I like that. And I think we all know that.
That's what I always say.
First of all, number one, 3 charges. What do you think Diddy's charged with? Three charges.
Sex trafficking?
It had to do with weapons, if I recall.
That's where we start. Not beating up Cassie, not having a party, not using baby oil, not having escorts do undonism and forms of urolagnia. I'm going to keep this safe. No. See, that's great for TMZ and Harvey Levin. He's charged with racketeering conspiracy for allegedly running a criminal enterprise. So when you hear something, when you hear a fact, ask yourself, where is the criminal enterprise? That's number one. Number two, sex trafficking through force, fraud, or coercion. Was Cassie, the only one I'm hearing about so far, we're going to hear about others, was she forced into this? Could she leave? Do you think she made any money from this? Did she benefit? Was anybody actually held, kidnapped for? I don't know. That's number two. And third, my favorite, transporting individuals across state lines for prostitution. This is the white slavery statute of 1910, the Mann Act. This is what. So whenever you hear somebody talk about this, whenever you hear this, you got to ask yourself, where are these charges? That's number one. Number two, let me tell you how he could walk. First, load up before you begin with the court filing copious motions in limine, meaning, judge, do not let this, and this in, and pray to God the judge denies them all. Thank you. I am creating the record on appeal. Thank you, Judge. Number two, stand up and object to everything. What does Cassie have to do with trafficking? In cross-examination, Ms. Ventura, were you trafficked? No. Could you have left?
Well, she says he had some texts, he had some sex videos, he was threatening to release. Yeah, I mean, again, that's not against the law, right?
Did you ever hear of revenge? Yeah. Did you ever hear of revenge? Did you ever hear about this? About, hey, I'm going to make your life miserable. I've got this picture. Is that trafficking? Right. Let me ask this question. This doesn't really come into play, but I want you to put this into perspective. Do you think maybe we could go back in life and look at the Stones, the Beatles, the Doors, the Who, Led Zeppelin? Remember the Led Zeppelin stories? Who had their own versions of freak-off parties, roadies? Remember the Plaster Casters, Sweet Sweet Connie, the whole notion of groupies, and this is the most convoluted story so far. And you better, if this is where they're going, because you want to start off with your best stuff first. You don't want to lead into something. Never lead into something, because you got to anticipate the judge could say, I don't want to hear any more of this. But judge, I was leading into this. Sorry. Ask your next witness. Where are we going with this? Everybody who takes the stand, everybody. First question, could you leave? Were you told you had to be there? As opposed to, and you mentioned that great piece you did about Mexican, about cartels. Those people are trafficked. You want to talk about traffic? Traffic, threatened. They can't leave. Kidnapping. These were parties. Where were these other people? And by the way, another question. The individuals that they get, these escorts who did these despicable acts with Cassie, remember that guy?
Yeah.
First question to this fellow. Did anybody grant you immunity? Because you did this to Cassie, not Diddy. You did these despicable acts. You defiled her. You degraded her. You abused her. You did this. So you're testifying under oath, or somebody said you did this. Did the government grant you immunity? Are you the Sammy the Bull, so to speak, of this? Why weren't you charged with this? Then we go on. And what happens is, if the jury gets the impression, forget Diddy, his gray hair, the sweaters, the Bible, any of that TMZ Harvey Levin stuff that no lawyer cares about that. But assuming you're there and say, I'm going to be here for 6 weeks, and this is a dog. And pretty soon you're going to say, you know what? Why am I here? What are we talking about? And after a while, when you start to look at these people, and you don't want to act, you don't want to be emotionally discourteous to these people, but you're going to have to ask, why were you there? During the course of this, you made how much money? I mean, Diddy, listen, I'm not supporting him. Do you know how many jobs this guy started? Do you know what he's done? The Hamptons White Party, do you know how many people, how many young women were on a waiting list to go to be defiled and trafficked? What are they talking about? Why are they? This better get good and quick, because
So
I'm not hearing.
That's what I wanted to get to. So that's what you're saying here. I mean, you're not defending Diddy at all. What you're saying is the prosecution here. Like, what is the state doing? What is the government doing in this case?
Precisely.
They're not doing. They're leading off with her, and they're not even going after the most harmful stuff. If you have this massive sex trafficking operation, why aren't we hearing about that right now, right out of the gate? How horrible was this stuff?
Right. It's a lot like the Stormy Daniels bit where, you know, you're prejudicing the jury with grossness, but that doesn't have to be a part of the case. You have to make the crime the lead.
And you're bringing up something which is the most important case. In the Federal Rules of Evidence, there's Rule 403. This is my favorite. And what it says is, you cannot put on evidence that you know is so prejudicial, even though it's probative, even though it's important. Classic example. In a murder case, you have to always introduce evidence that who this murdered person is. Who is he? Who's the stiff? Who is he? So you have somebody, maybe it's dental records, maybe it's somebody they knew, and sometimes maybe it's a relative. Can you imagine if during the course of the murder prosecution, I as a prosecutor want to introduce evidence, and I call the mother of the victim, and I say, I'm showing you what's been marked as State's Exhibit Number 1. Do you know who this is? The judge will say, that just prejudiced the jury. That's a mistrial. What are you doing? You can't do that. That's 403. So what they're doing is they're going to be hearing about, oh, my God, this poor pregnant woman when they defiled her. And they may not be able to understand, wait a minute, I've got to remember that's not what he was charged with. Clayton, if you were charged with speeding, and at your hearing, somebody brings up evidence of you were drunk, it's like, wait a minute, that's a bad thing. That's not what I'm charged with. Yeah, but we found bottles. That's not what I'm charged with. This idea that you can just bring out everything and just show case after case. Now remember, who was the individual who trafficked, and that's force, fraud, or coercion? Why were you there? Do you know how many people are going to say, well, you know, Diddy might have promised, wheedled, cajoled them by promising them, big roles in the music business. My friends, we've all been kind of in the entertainment business for a long time. Have you ever heard about a radio station or a TV station or a producer or a manager who might have sometimes promised somebody the stars and might have maybe taken advantage? This happens all the time. Do you know that right now, in the world of professional sports, between the NFL, Major League Baseball, and the NBA, there's about 3,000 athletes. Do you know how many roadies there are? How many groupies there are when the teams go into hotels who follow them? I'm not trying to blame the victim. I'm not doing this. But as I hearken back to your brilliant report before, we've got victims. We have people who were disappeared, put in boxcars and in tractor trailers, sent, labor trafficking. That's what the government should be paying attention to, not this. And I don't want to blame the victim, but you've got to ask yourself the question. If all of these women, I'm sorry to say this, went there of their own volition, wanting to rub shoulders, rub elbows with whoever, I'm not saying if there are cases of individuals who are minors, but I've got to ask yourself the question, and I'm sorry, somebody's got to ask this. What do you want? What do you want? What do you think you're going to get? Is this where the federal government should be paying its limited attention and time? That's what I'm going to say.
Well, his lawyer had said, I think on CNN, Diddy's lawyer said, we don't think they have evidence of this where it would have been in the initial indictment, because the initial indictment, salacious as it was thin on evidence. There's just some pictures of guns with serial numbers rubbed off. And so you're right. Did you kidnap people? It comes to mind, the Ottomans would tie ladies' hair together so that they could rape them in a circle. Like, no one was dragged there and couldn't, where is that evidence? So then the question is, why did the Biden Justice Department take this on in the first place? What were they trying to prove? Good
luck with that one. I don't know. I think he pissed somebody off. But we're looking at a couple of things here. Number one, when it comes time for, at the end of the government's case, they issue a motion for a judgment of acquittal. And this is where the defense says, you have not proved a prima facie case of these three charges. That's number one. If they say fine, then you go to the defendant's, Diddy's case in chief. And this is where you go bananas. Let's talk about other people. Because what if I were to call as a witness? Now, think about this. And I'm not going to say this. Pick the top 3, 4, 5 names in either hip-hop or entertainment, just one after another. Mick Jagger, whatever. Jay-Z. I'm not saying they're involved in it. But all of a sudden they'll say, what is this? Hold it. Why? I want you to help us create the narrative of what these parties were. Well, you were there, weren't you? Wait a minute. Hold it. I'm not saying he can threaten this, but this is a part of his case, because what is Diddy saying? I'm not a trafficker. These were parties. Look, you might think they're salacious, and there's a lot of things that go on regarding people's private lives. It's none of our business. It's been around since the days of Charlie Chaplin and Fatty Arbuckle, and from day one. They can really get creative with this. If that fails, we're looking at a reversal possibly on appeal, because you're laying the groundwork. An appellate court is going to be saying, why did you let all this evidence in? Now, Natali, here's one for you. You want to get double conspiracy theory? What if they're deliberately setting this up to teach him a lesson, but throwing it so that he walks?
Yeah.
I mean, do you want to go down? Yeah. That's not even a rabbit hole. That's a rat's nest and a spider hole. None of this makes any sense. Why do you have this pregnant Cassie? What is the purpose? Miss Ventura, were you part of white slavery, which is the expression, Jack Johnson, R. Kelly, and Chuck Berry? No. Were you part of the racketeering enterprise? No. Were you part of why are you here? What are you doing? Oh, you just want to tell us stories about he's a terrible person. And tell me, friends, what does that beating, when you show people, listen, I'm one of the few prosecutors who actually prosecuted pornography cases in the 80s, and we never got a conviction. Because after you see something for 5 times, you're saying, Jesus, lady, play a trumpet for now and then. How many times are we going to see the Cassie video? We're going to say, enough with this. He's not charged with battery. She settled. This is over. Why are you showing us this video?
Can I ask you a dumb question, and we'll get you out of here, Lionel. I know you got to go, but can they, through this case, through everything that's coming out with these witnesses in the courtroom right now, can they pull out new pieces of evidence that would not be admissible in this particular case, but could be used later in another case? Like they find out information that he hasn't been charged with right now. Yeah. This gets to a mistrial, and then we go through a whole nother trial because of new evidence that was discovered during this trial.
If it's new evidence, or that's a great question, or in reverse, a la Weinstein, they bring up something that says, you know what? We're going to bring up a rebuttal witness. This is great when you try this later on. They say, who's this? Well, this is another woman that Diddy beat up. Wait a minute, who's she? Well, it's similar fact evidence. What? It's to show that there's a pattern. Wait a minute, a pattern of what? A pattern of trafficking? No, a pattern of beating up women. He's not charged with beating up women. It doesn't matter. This is what they do now. Look at the Weinstein case, and he's the most despicable. But believe me, he's a choir boy, whatever that means, compared to this. They're going to get real desperate. Remember, because Jim Comey's daughter, at least years ago, was a part, I don't know if she's still a part of the case right now. What was the purpose of this? And do you know, seriously, if here's my favorite, my fantasy. He says one day, if I say, Diddy, it's over. Take the stand and go nuts. And he says, okay, folks, I want to tell you a story. I want to tell you about these people. And he just starts naming names. And he says, this is what my industry does. Do you know where I learned about this? You know where I met these people? It was at so-and-so's party, and what they did. This is what we do. These women are on a waiting list. We had to hire security to keep the women out. When was the last time traffickers had to hire security to keep victims from being trafficked?
We got a wait list. Yeah.
Right.
No,
yeah,
really.
That's a great point.
I'm telling you. Like, I got a gold card and baby oil? I mean, is that against the law? I don't want to ask you people what you do with your own personal lives, but the last time I checked, if I remember one thing, when that jury gets the impression that this case stinks, and you're thinking, you're wasting my time with this, then it doesn't matter whether it's Diddy. It's like, wait a minute, you promised us something. Come on, we're waiting. I want to see a picture. Now, listen, I'm not trying to be sad, but imagine children, pictures of them being pulled out of a tractor trailer, chained, something like that, Sound of Freedom or something. Now that's trafficking. Or people who said, my name is Clayton Morris, and I'm involved in the trafficking division of Bad Boy Records. I used to arrange all of these prostitution crossing state lines. We would have a traffic division and a travel division. That might be good. Or we would work with others to. That's the kind of stuff. Think El Chapo, cartels, trafficking.
Right.
Not
where's the deadbolts on the door? You couldn't leave.
Yeah, where's the Matt Lauer deadbolts on the door?
Right, exactly.
Precisely.
Yeah, we need to see that. Yeah.
No, this is fascinating.
And again,
I think a lot of people thought, I will just say this, Lionel, I think a lot of people thought, oh, this would be like an open and shut case, right? He's so dirty, and now it doesn't look like that at all.
Let me tell you something. I'm going to go back to one thing, too. Ghislaine Maxwell. Remember what she was charged with? She was charged with basically being a human trafficker by herself and running an enterprise by herself. She was also charged, I think the first time in history, for lying on a deposition. My God, everybody lies. What?
Yeah.
And so those are the three cases. You've got to hold people. Remember, if I represent you, I'm going to say, show me the indictment. That's it. I don't care what else you did. This is what we've got to prove. On this date, at this time, with these people, in this state. I mean, very specific. They had all the time in the world with that grand jury to charge them with anything. You, like they said in the Jack Reacher, remember, you wanted this. These were your charges. Now you're going to eat them. Because you're going to live with this and die with this. Nothing else. Just these. And I'm going to get a big poster in court. And I'm going to point to them and say, let's go through element number 1. Any trafficking evidence? No. How about this? Violation of the Mann Act? No. How about where's the enterprise? Diddy? He had his one-man racketeering enterprise? No. This is, what are we doing here? And as soon as the jury says, and they look at the government and say, yeah, what are we doing here? Then all of a sudden, Diddy can just sit there, and especially he's looking like something from like an Uncle Remus with the gray hair. He looks like Morgan Freeman. You're looking at him, and believe it or not, they're looking at him, and he doesn't look like, that's not the. Are you? That might have been then. And by the way, wait till some witness shows up. I hate to say this. What if she's 40 years old? Who are you? I'm one of the girls. When was this? 20 years ago? This is is there anybody, is there anything new here? Nope. So this case is going to stink. Harvey Levin and TMZ notwithstanding. And I have nothing against Harvey. He's into the salacious.
Yeah, the salacious side of it. Yeah, exactly. And
a lot of traffic on TikTok. You know, people like, ooh, he did this, he did. Yeah, right. But that's not against the law. Read Kafka. Do you want to be charged with nothing and put to death? You know, like the government's got to bring the goods. And we all have to root for the government to give it their best. And if they don't have anything, then we can't live in a Kafka-esque society.
I cannot tell you, in my career, I have had cases thrown out because they never specified the county that this thing took place in. I know it may sound like trivial, but it's an affirmative part of the case of the prosecution. They never, if Natali, if you're charged with something, they've got to prove your county, your state, on this date, on or about. And if they bring in all this evidence of you being Al Capone, but they never said where, they never established jurisdiction, they never proved why this let's say court or this jurisdiction, this prosecutor is charging you, the case goes away. Do you know how many? One time we had a murder case where they granted a judgment of acquittal because nobody bothered to say who the stiff was. They never identified him. It was a murder, but they never. Well, who is he? You were charged with killing John Smith. Who's that? Is that John Smith? Well, and it may seem like trivial to you, may seem like a technicality. It's called due process. Like in Kilmar Garcia, everybody wants due process. It's simple. This is, listen, I'd rather have a really strong misdemeanor than a crappy felony. Give me something that's real easy to prove. Give me 1, 2 counts, simple. And you know how you can tell a good charge is when they plead to it. Oop. I think I've gone dark here.
I mean, and this is something Kash Patel, spoke openly about before he became the head of the FBI, which is that, the government screws up all the time. And it was his job in many ways to call out the failures of the government on a regular basis.
There you are. Right. Yeah, you got to bring the goods. If you're going to bring a case like this, it's got to be solid. We need the government to have A-level lawyers who can file a bang-up indictment that's foolproof, and it doesn't seem that that's what we have. No one here is rooting for Diddy to live a happy life and, be totally exonerated. Yeah. We're not condoning Diddy. We just, again, we want to know what the crime is.
Last thing, if I could, we have lost the notion of critical thinking. Do you know recently somebody said, I hate to keep talking about this, this guy Kilmar or Garcia, whatever. Yeah. The president said, well, this MS-13, this was photoshopped. What difference does it make? Why are you focusing on this? If I got a Photoshop picture of Hitler, it's still Hitler. What I'm saying is people don't understand the idea of critical thinking and accusation. That's not the issue. The issue was not whether a picture was photographed. The issue is not whether Diddy was involved in the salacious and by the way, they're not going to bring in Justin Bieber. He's not a part of this. People are talking about Justin Bieber and what about that? No. Yeah. This is on this date, at this place with these people, and there's a bill of particulars which home in more on this. It's not about let's throw everything at Diddy and see what happens. It's a particular charge and a particular date, and you've got to prove it, and you have the burden. Diddy doesn't have to prove anything. That's the way we do it. That's due process.
Yeah. Thank you, Lionel.
Lionel, great to see you as always.
Thank you, my friends.
All right, subscribe to the Lionel Nation YouTube channel for more of that.
I think when his camera got all blurry, he's got to watch that extra baby oil. Oh, that's what it is.
Yeah. Someone in the chat one night.
Bastard, you.
I know. I am a sick bastard.
Oh, I'm being accused of being a sick bastard because someone in the chat when I mentioned the Ottomans, they said, "What kind of books does she read?"
Oh, you don't want to know. Yeah.
No.
Lionel, great to see you as always. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much. All the best.